Okay, so now in this section, I'm going to go over some of the Roman gods and the differences from their Greek counterparts. This because the Romans actually copied quite a few of the gods from Greek mythology, and so I think that it would be fun and interesting to discuss the differences that the Romans gave them. So let's start with Jupiter. So Jupiter is the Roman counterpart of Zeus, and like Zeus, he is the king of the gods. So in Roman and Greek mythology, Jupiter and Zeus are actually quite similar, and there are basically no changes made between them. Their personality and stories are also quite similar to one another. Next is Neptune. Neptune is the Roman version of Poseidon. So one of the main differences between Neptune and Poseidon is actually, unlike Poseidon, Neptune is also the god of fresh water. Originally, he was only the god of fresh water, but that was eventually changed. Next is Pluto, the Roman version of Hades. So one difference between them is that, unlike Hades, Pluto is also the god of wealth. This is because of the enormous amount of precious minerals that were found in underground, and so the Romans found it suitable that he also be the god of wealth. Juno is the Roman version of Hera. So a main difference between them is that Hera is very vindictive, as seen by the story that I told about her cursing Apollo and Artemis's mother to not give birth on land because Zeus had cheated on her with their mother. However, Juno is a much more benevolent and loving god, so that is the main difference between them. Next is Minerva. Minerva is the Roman version of Athena. So one difference is that, unlike Athena, Minerva was not a war goddess. Instead, the Romans had Bellona, who was their goddess of war. So actually, Minerva served a purpose more with wisdom instead of battle strategy like Athena. Venus is the Roman version of Aphrodite. So one difference is that, unlike Aphrodite, Venus was also a goddess of fertility. This is similar to the function that Demeter serves in Greek mythology, and she was also the patron of prostitutes. Diana is the Roman version of Artemis. So a difference between Diana and Artemis is that Artemis focuses more on the wild and nature, while Diana was more connected to the moon as a counterpart to her brother Apollo, who's the god of the sun. So something interesting is that Wonder Woman, Diana of the Mascara, was actually named after the Roman god Diana. Apollo is one of the few gods that has the same name in both Roman and Greek mythology. So one difference is that the Greeks mainly focus on his role as the god of light, while the Romans focus on him as the god of healing and prophecy, such as the Oracle of Delphi. Mars is the Romans version of Aries. So one difference is that Mars was actually also the god of agriculture. In the later years of Rome, Mars represented the peace that Rome enjoyed, while Aries was seen as destructive. Thus, Mars was much more popular with the Romans because war was seen as more undesirable by the Greeks. And Mars was also the mythical father of Romulus and Remus, who were the founders of Rome, making him much more important to the Romans. Ceres is the Roman version of Demeter. So the difference between Demeter and Ceres is that Ceres actually also represents maternal love. This is quite fitting given the story with Persephone and Demeter and how much Demeter loves Persephone. So it's a very fitting role for Ceres to play. Vulcan is the Roman version of Hephaestus. So a major difference is that Vulcan's father is actually known. So Vulcan's father is confirmed to be Jupiter, the Roman version of Zeus, while Hephaestus' father is unknown. Moreover, Hephaestus worked alone, but Vulcan is said to have forged women of gold to help him. And in Roman mythology, Vulcan created Zeus's lightning bolt, while in Greek mythology it was the Cyclops. Mercury is the Roman version of Hermes. So one difference is that, unlike Mercury, Hermes is also the god of thieves and travelers, while Mercury is only seen as the messenger of the gods. The Roman version of Hestia is Vesta. So a difference between them is while Hestia represents the private, quiet, domestic half, Vesta evolved into a more public political figure in Rome, with a state-tended sacred fire and dedicated priests. Bacchus is the Roman version of Dionysus. While Dionysus is seen as more jovial, Bacchus is seen as more vengeful. So, in a way, they represent two different types of people when they get drunk. And some people can become more jovial and carefree, such as Dionysus, and some people can become more angry, like Bacchus, which I find interesting. In this section of the video, I'm going to be going over the different Egyptian gods from ancient Egyptian mythology. So, a way that Egyptian mythology is more unique is that they focus more on their gods being cosmic entities that maintain control and order, such which they called Ma'at, and their gods are depicted with animal heads, which is very different from Greek and Roman mythology and is unique to Egyptian mythology. So there are many different Egyptian gods, but the ones that I'm going to be going over are Ra, Osiris, Horus, Isis, Anubis, and Set. This is because they are some of the more important characters in Egyptian mythology, so that's why I feel like I should go through them. The first of the Egyptian gods that I would like to talk about is Ra. So Ra was known as the sun god and the creator of life, often known as Amun-Ra when he was combined with the god Amun. So he is thought to have created humans from his tears and was the king of Egypt until he became old and then ascended to the heavens to begin ruling over the other gods. Next, let's talk about Osiris, the god of death. So in a lot of Egyptian mythology, he was killed by his brother Set. He was the husband of Isis and he caused the elaborate death rituals in ancient Egypt because they searched for revival like Osiris. He was revived by his wife after being killed by his brother, which caused the creation of the first mummy. Next is Horus. Horus is the son of Osiris and Isis. He is the god of the sky and represents protection. His symbol, the Eye of Horus, is also said to represent protection. In a lot of ancient mythology, he battled his uncle Set to avenge his father. In some versions of the stories, Horus, Isis, and Osiris are actually siblings, though that depends on what version you're reading. Isis was the wife of Osiris in ancient mythology. She was said to use magic to protect the kingdom of Egypt. She created a snake to poison the sun god Ra, forcing him to reveal his true name to Isis in exchange for the antidote to the poison. A true name gives a person control over the other, so knowing Ra's true name made her extremely powerful. Set was the god of chaos and of the desert, otherwise known as the Red Land. He was known as the Red One, and his control over the desert, which represented dryness, which threatened growth and vegetation, which was vital for life, made him known as the god of chaos. He would travel with Ra on his nightly journey until the serpent Apophis, Ra's mortal enemy, attacked. Apophis would stun all the gods except Set, who would repel the beast by stabbing it with his spear. After he murdered his brother Osiris, in many versions, he was killed by his nephew Horus to avenge the death of his brother. The final god I'll be talking about is Anubis, the god of the dead. He would weigh people's hearts against the feather of truth, and if it was too heavy, he would feed their hearts to the monster Amit, who ate their souls. He was thought to watch over tombs and punish grave robbers, and the jars that were used to store organs after death were sometimes modeled after him. So this is the final section of the video, and I'm going to be talking about how their different beliefs and how it affected their way of life. So one way it affected their way of life is their class system. So because for Egyptians, they thought that you needed a lot of different gifts and precious treasures to cross into the underworld safely. It influenced their class system a lot, and so their class system was much more intense than the Greeks or Romans, and they separated people a lot more by class and how much wealth they had. Moreover, the Greeks and Romans were much more battle-heavy and territorial and went to war to increase the territory that they had. Now, this could be influenced by the fact that the Egyptian gods were more focused on cosmic order and maintaining the balance of the universe, so it would make them slightly more peace-loving, and also because of the fact that their souls would be weighed against the feather of truth, and if it was not heavier than the feather of truth, their souls would be fed to Amit. It probably led them to be slightly more peace-loving and to do good deeds in their life. Of course, this is only my opinion, and it might not have actually influenced them at all, but it's interesting to think how their different beliefs would have influenced how they interacted not only with one another, but also with other countries and other people. So some of the points that I made in this video were actually in these videos, and they were very informational, so I'd advise you to check them out, and I also link them in the description. Also, if you hear rain sounds for the rest of the video, it's because it was raining when I was recording the audio. The parts where the audio sounds different, it's most likely because I edited the video in part of it in Premiere, and so I had to extract the audio and it sounds different. And when you extract the audio, it sounds different, and I don't know why. And part of this video was also edited on InShot. So anyways, hope you liked the video, and thank you.